I started a new Stardew Valley farm with the aim of getting perfection, and this is how my first season went. First things, I got my parsnips into the ground, and then I ran around town trying to meet everybody that I could. On the beach, I found a clam and an oyster, as well as some glass shards, so I quickly ran those up to Gunther. I ended the day only having missed Maru, Sebastian, Marnie, and Jazz. I also planted some mixed seeds that I had acquired, which actually was a mistake as it put me in crow territory. That night, I leveled up in foraging. The next day I woke up, no crows, so we're safe for now. I headed to the beach to grab my fishing rod from Willy and then spent some time fishing. I sold everything I caught to Willy and then ran up to meet Jazz at the museum. I met Marnie at Pierre's. I found Maru at work, and now all that's left is Sebastian. He is such a social introvert that he only comes out at night. So I headed to the forest to do some foraging before going to meet him at the mountain lake. That night I managed to level up in fishing, and I woke up to still no crows. It was also raining, so I spent some energy clearing up the farm and then gave George a leak to complete that quest. I headed to the beach to do some foraging, finding a mussel. I then spent some time fishing at the beach. I'm not a Stardew Valley expert and I'm still learning a lot, so I didn't realize that the best place to go fishing when it's raining is the river. Please forgive me, I do learn eventually. The next morning, Clint paid me a visit and gave me a furnace recipe. I still had no crows. I then headed to Pierre's, but I was too early, so I went down to Jodi's and realized I was too early for her, and then I remembered I forgot to water my crops. So I ran back to the farm, watered all my crops, and then headed into town and got the backpack upgrade. While fishing at the beach, I managed to fish up a diamond, and I decided to sell that for some quick cash. I then accidentally gave Mayor Lewis a rock as a gift, and I panicked realizing how close I had been to giving him my diamond. Oh, I would never have lived that down. I then headed up to the mountain lake in hopes of getting a largemouth bass, but at 7 p.m. I headed down to the river in hopes of catching a bream. That night, I managed to get both my foraging skill and my fishing skill up a level. On the 5th day, Marnie was at my door with a dog. I named him Marvin. I also had my first parsnip harvest. That means we are out of crow territory. Today I had enough money to buy the fiberglass rod so I could use bait while fishing. I grabbed some green beans, potatoes, and parsnip seeds back at Pierre's, exactly 15, so no more crow fears. I then headed to the mines for the first time. I got really lucky managing to get a crab to drop, so now I have that for the community center. I managed to make it to floor 10, and then I did some fishing. That night I leveled up in farming, which means I can finally craft a scarecrow, and that means I can finally put more than 15 seeds down. So that's exactly what I did. I planted more parsnips and mixed seeds. When I headed into town, I got the community center unlocked, and then I spent the rest of the day in the mines. I only managed to get to level 17 before I had to call it quits. But that night I leveled up in combat. The next day is day 7 and the last day of the first week. My potatoes were ready for harvest, and then I visited the traveling cart lady. I realized I had forgotten to visit her on Friday. I really hope this doesn't screw me up. She had nothing for me today, so I just carried on down to the wizards, who made me do some drugs, and now I have the community center unlocked. I did a little bit of river fishing before heading into town to give Lewis a parsnip for his birthday, and then I headed to the community center to dump off my spring foraging and unlock the other bundles. In these bundles, I could also donate a sunfish, a sardine, a clam, an oyster, a mussel, a bream, an eel, a carp, and a bullhead. Didn't manage to complete any specific bundles, but I'm getting close to what I can achieve in spring. That night, I got fishing level 4, and this completes my first week in Stardew. Monday, day 8, week 2 of Stardew. The day started off with a letter from my father with 500 gold. This means I have enough to get my pickaxe upgraded to copper, and I got an owl statue. I dropped off my pickaxe, got some geodes cracked, got nothing of value, headed to the museum, donated a couple things, and I got rewarded with cauliflower seeds. Willy was in need of a smallmouth bass, so I caught that for him, got some bait off him, went to fish in the ocean, but then I realized it's better for me to fish in the mountain lake as I need a largemouth bass, so I made my way up there and I managed to catch one. Overnight, I managed to level up in fishing and foraging. On day 9, I managed to get another batch of parsnips. I kept one for the community center and sold the rest. I also planted my cauliflower seeds that I got from Gunther. Jody was seeking an anchovy, so I headed down to the beach to catch one, immediately ran out of bait, went to Willy's to go grab some more, and realized it's the one day that he's not at his shop. But the RNG gods had my back, because not even a few catches later I managed to fish up a treasure chest which had bait in it. I guess it was just a really good luck day, because not even a few casts later I managed to fish up an ancient seed. So I ran that up to Gunther immediately to get my real ancient seed, and then headed back to the beach to continue the hunt for an anchovy. When I tell you I spent the whole day looking for an anchovy, I kid you not. But right when I was finally ready to give up, it was my last cast, I managed to catch one. It was too late in the evening to give it to Jody, so I would have to give it to her the next day. I headed back into town, managed to catch Linus digging through the trash. Don't worry, I told him it was fine. I do it every single day. I am hunting for that trash catalog and trash hat. I then went to the community center and donated the crab and the largemouth bass. And when I got home, I sold up my fish, accidentally selling my anchovy. But don't worry, I did plant the ancient fruit. On day 10, I had a good harvest of parsnips, even managing to get 2 gold ones. Then I headed into town to buy replacement seeds, only to realize it was a Wednesday. I managed to get some cookies in the mull-nosed garbage that Linus had missed, and then reluctantly headed back to the beach to catch another anchovy. I used all my remaining bait, then went back to Elise to buy more bait, and managed to catch it first try. So I ran to Jody's house, only to find she wasn't there. So I had to track her down at JojaMart of all places. Ew. But she did, however, give me a prize ticket, so it was all worth it. I ran to Lewis's and turned it in. I only got carrot seeds, but the next thing up is a peach tree, so I'm very excited. I went home and planted the carrot seeds, so at least I have something in the ground, and then I headed to the mines where I got to floor 20. Day 11. Unfortunately, my OBS decided not to record today, which is extremely unfortunate because today is the day I got a coop. I also managed to get another ancient seed and 5 levels in the mine. I'm so sorry I don't have the footage for this. This was also when I realized I wanted to make this into a YouTube video, so I moved some things around on my HUD just so you could see the information in the top corner better. Please ignore the quality of the video dipping and diving. I forget to record sometimes, so I need to download it from the Twitch VODs. Back to the gameplay, I spent most of the day fishing at the mountain lakes. I needed some money because I wanted to get a decent harvest of strawberries at the Egg Festival. Day 13, I have managed to scrape together $4,000, which is a lot to buy seeds with. I did not buy $4,000 worth of seeds. This garden is big enough for me to water manually. I am not buying $4,000 of seeds. I bought 23. And then it was time for the egg hunt. I absolutely decimated Abigail by getting 12 eggs. I also gained the old reliable straw hat, which is my favorite hat in the game. I actually unironically wear this hat for most of my playthroughs. After getting home that evening, I planted all my strawberries and then called it a night. On day 14, I managed to get another golden parsnip, so now I only need 1 more. And then I headed to the mines. I managed to score a dwarven scroll and made it to level 39, where I proceeded to hit every single rock that I could. I could barely see. It's extremely bright when I'm streaming, so I can't see my computer screen when the games are dark. So I was going in completely blind, whacking at spaces where I didn't even know if there were rocks. It was so late and I was completely out of energy that I just went back to the beginning and I saw it, a ladder. And now, when I look back in editing, it was there the whole time! And day 15, I started the day by harvesting a golden parsnip, which means I now have enough for the community center, which is such a weight off my shoulders. I'm so thankful. Then I filled up my pockets with all the things I would need for the community center and to go to Clint's. I grabbed a quest from the wizard about slaying dust sprites, which is very convenient. I brought Evelyn a dandelion she had requested, and I gave George a leaf. I had to do some inventory management when I was cracking my geodes. I donated what I could to the museum. I got a reward of some melon seeds and, more importantly, a star fruit. I then headed to the community center and not only donated my spring crops, but my 5 golden parsnips. That unlocked the boiler room for me. I went to grab some more seeds at Pierre's, and due to autopiloting, I grabbed parsnip seeds, which I no longer need, so I switched over to cauliflower. When I got to Robin's, I realized I had misjudged how much clay to bring. I knew I needed 10, but for some reason I only bought 5, so I headed to the mine. I did manage to get a coffee bean, complete the quest for the wizard, and I made it to level 47. When I got back to the farm, I planted not only my coffee bean, but my cauliflower seeds before heading to bed, where I leveled up in farming and foraging. On day 16, it was forecasted to rain the next day, so I wanted to get my watering can upgraded. I grabbed all the things I needed, and after finishing my daily chores, I headed down to the wizards where I turned in my quest, went over and grabbed Robin's lost axe, and then forgot to go to Clint's. I instead headed to the mountain lake, and I had a very stressful time trying to fish with a full inventory. I eventually gave up, ferried my items home, and then I smelted some iron and made some tappers. Day 17, a rainy day. Did I go to the river and catch a catfish that I need for the community center? No, I forgot. I went to Marnie's, I grabbed some chickens that I'd been waiting all week for. Chat named my first chicken Marianne, and then named the second chicken Ignore. I then spent the rest of the day chopping trees and smelting copper. The next day, I had max good luck, so I quickly did my chores, grabbed the correct amount of clay and other silo resources, commissioned Robin to build the silo, gave her her lost axe. She gave me more than what I paid for the silo to get built, so I walked out of her house with more money, and then went straight into the mines, where I managed to not only get a solar essence for the community center, I also got a ghost fish. I left the mines on floor 56. The next morning, the Weather Channel predicted rain. I put a gold bar on to smelt and then headed to town. I stopped by the community center, donated a ghostfish, bat wings, quartz, frozen tear, frozen geode, red mushroom to the wrong bundle, aquamarine, cave carrot, morel, and a winter root. And then popped over to Clint's, upgraded my watering can, finally, cracked some geodes, donated what I could to the museum. I went to the beach, fixed up the bridge down there, found a sea urchin, returned home, grabbed the gold bar which I had been smelting, and after donating that, I unlocked the vault. It was now that I realized I had completely forgot to check the traveling cart, so I ran as fast as my little legs would allow me to get down to her, and it's a good thing I did because she was selling a truffle. This would save me having to get a pig. Now I had to run all the way back up to the mountain lake because I was meant to be catching a largemouth bass for Sebastian. I even had bubbles when I got there, but unfortunately 7 PM rolled around and no largemouth bass. Sorry, Sebastian. The last thing I did that day was donate the truffle to the community center. Today my chickens were finally adults and they gave me their first eggs. I took some time to cut them some hay, then forgot to feed them. It was raining, so of course I went catfishing. Just kidding, I forgot again. I instead headed to the mine to complete an iron order quest that Clint had put in. On level 59, I was stuck in the spiral and I had to go all the way to the end before I finally found a ladder down. Finally got out of the mines at 10:20 and I ran to try and catch Clint before he went home. Thankfully, I found him happily drinking at the saloon. I was able to turn in the quest and get my prize ticket. On day 21, it was a rainy day and I really wanted to head to the mines, but I stopped myself. I needed to go catch a catfish. But first I set off to the traveling cart. She had nothing good on offer, so then I headed into town, exchanged my prize ticket for a peach tree, got distracted with a smallmouth bass frenzy, but then I roused myself, headed into Clint's, cracked some geodes, headed back to the river to fish in a different spot, but I was told that this was the wrong spot, so I headed up to Pierre's, grabbed a quest from Pam for a league, was forced to watch Morris be a twat, headed over to the correct spot to fish. I not only managed to catch catfish, I also caught a shad. On day 22, I woke up with the intention of upgrading my pickaxe to iron, but after heading over to Pierre's, I found a quest from Robin for some stone. However, when I got to the mines, I realized I hadn't brought my sword with me. Thankfully, I had left the prize on the floor that I was on, and it was a crystal dagger. I don't think anyone's ever used this item, but it did manage to get me 5 levels down, and I completed the quest. I raced off to Clint's and turned my pickaxe in. Then I headed to the beach to do some foraging. All I'm needing for the crab pot is a cockle shell, and I am yet to find one. So I just bought a large sack of bait and fished the day away. On day 23, I awoke to my first bit of oak resin. Sadly, this is not destined to become a keg. I need it for the community center. I spent the day chopping wood. I need 350 pieces for a barn and 200 pieces for the construction bundle at the community center. So I deforested until it was really late, and then I realized I had completely forgot to hand in my quest to Robin. I ran all the way up to the mountains only to have her door lock in my face. The next day was the flower dance. I spent the day chopping trees to get some more wood as I hadn't quite got enough. Then it was time for the flower dance. I'm so sad that you can't make friends with Marlin. Like, he's here at a lot of these community events, but you just can't befriend him. And I'm very sad that he cannot woo Marnie, because honestly, he's a much better choice than Lewis. I didn't have the hearts with anyone, so I just stood by and watched the dance go on. Day 25 was the day that I had been waiting for. Not only were my strawberries ready to harvest, my coffee bean was too. The bats in my fruit cave gave me a pomegranate. Wait, when did I get bats? I guess this must have happened on the day my OBS didn't record, but I have bats. So they gave me a pomegranate, which is perfect. First try, I need this for the community center. I got my coffee beans straight into the ground and sprinkled them with speed grow. I picked up my pickaxe from Clint and handed him my axe to get upgraded to copper. After ordering a barn from Robin, I spent the rest of the day fishing. Summer is fast approaching. I want to make sure I have enough money not only for 2 cows, but also all the summer seeds. Overnight, I reached level 5 farming as well as level 8 fishing. The next day, I got my first maple syrup. I considered making this into a beehive as I do need honey for the community center, but figured I'd just get another one and make a beehive then. I gave in and made a crab pot as I'm sick of waiting for a cockle shell. I also donated my pomegranate, which was so satisfying. It was time for my annual Friday rush down to the traveling cart as I never remember she is there. She didn't have anything for me, so I went up to the mines. I managed to get myself a bone sword and down to level 73. Today, my recycling machine blessed me with cloth. I picked up my axe from Clint's and crushed some geodes. I was rewarded with pumpkin seeds after donating to the museum. I then cleared out the stumps behind the bookseller. I grabbed the secret prize ticket back there, then headed back to my farm to get some more hardwood. Now I have enough, I donated everything to the construction bundle in the community center. I added some cloth to the artisan bundle, and then headed to the mines. I managed to make my way down to level 80 and then tried to get enough gold to be able to get a golden pickaxe upgrade, but I fell a little short sadly. That night I leveled up in mining. Today is the 28th of spring, which means it is the last day of the month. It started off with Emily greeting me on my porch, letting me know I could use her sewing machine. I spent some time collecting hardwood and I remembered to check the traveling cart. Thank gosh I did, because she had an apricot for sale for only 200 gold. Then I visited Barney's. I got my 2 cows. One is named Smile and the other is called Rose. Willie wanted a flounder, but I wanted to head to the mines, and I made it to level 91. That night I leveled up in combat and in forestry, just in time to get lightning rods for summer. And that was my first season in Stardew Valley. I hope you guys enjoyed. I cannot wait for summer, and I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please remember to leave a like, and I will see you guys in summer. Ka kite.